Alright, let's go, we're back at it. I'm just going to tilt this a little bit. Yesterday, I realised by the time I got to the gym, I'd cut the top of my head off with the angle, so not this time. So it's just after 6 a.m, it's freezing, and we're not even in winter yet, which starts next week sometime. So I'm not looking forward to what we've got in store. Let me get this heater going. So I'm going to talk about some common pitfalls of starting a SaaS business. So SaaS, if you're not familiar, means software as a service, SaaS. And there's some unique challenges with SaaS. And one of the ones that we laugh about now, but in the early days, we got this potential new B2B client. And it was really early on. We had like no customers. And this B2B guy comes along and promises us the world, like, oh, you know, I've got all these clients. I'll be able to like pay you lots of money. But all I need is you to build this one feature. Now, the TLDR of this is if somebody says that to you, do not build the feature until they pay. But longer story. So, naive me is like, oh, I can build that. And like, as a technical founder, especially when you're starting out, you take these things as a challenge because, well, I did anyway. I view myself as, you know, I'm pretty good. I can code stuff, you know. I can impress this guy with the speed of my code. So, without talking any commercials, I was like, yep, I'll build the feature. And then, of course, you start fantasizing with like, oh yeah, I'm going to build this thing, and then he's going to send me all these customers and we're going to have tons of money and it's going to be good. So it took me maybe a few weeks to build this feature, and then we go back to him and they then don't reply immediately, which is always like a, well, what are you doing? Like, I just spent all this time. So I'm doing all these kind of follow-up emails, like, hey, have you tried out the thing? Have you tried out the thing? And it's already like a shit position to be in, because now I'm begging this guy to try out the thing he asked me to build. And so eventually, like a week or two later, he gets back to me and goes, oh yeah, I tried it out, but it's not quite right. It needs this extra thing. So you start building the extra thing, and then same pattern happens, takes a week or two to build, and then you go back to him and he's like, oh yeah, no, we tried it out and it's just not quite right. And you're like, what do you mean it's not quite right? It like does exactly what you said. And like, oh yeah, you know, it needs this little extra thing. So stupid me continues to build this extra thing. So anyway, this went on for quite some time, and an embarrassingly long time. And it gets to the point where they're like, oh, the data's not quite right. And it's like, well, we've validated everything. Like, everything looks correct. Like, can you explain why this thing isn't right? And then at that point, they just don't respond for weeks and weeks. So anyway, I got pretty sick of this. And so I emailed the guy, and I'm like, look, I'm happy to keep working on this, but you need to start paying, and the price is X. And then never heard from them again. And so that lesson early on was, you got to get paid up front for these things. And I know it's tempting at the start when you don't have any revenue to go, oh, like, no, fair enough, like, we need to build out the product, so we'll work on this feature and the person will pay, but they never do. And I would like to say that was the one and only time I did it, but it's not the case. It happened again recently. And I knew the risks going in. I was like, look, I'm probably going to spend time building this thing, and they're probably going to muck me around somehow. But the only thing is, this time I had the knowledge to cut it really early. So I built this feature over a week or so with the promise they were going to send me customers, and I maybe about 2 weeks work, so it was a good chunk of time, but not the end of the world. And then sure enough, just as I'd feared, they started mucking me around. And so this time, instead of continuing, I pulled the plug really early and was just like, sorry, we're not doing anything more. And I think that was some growth, because I could have just got sucked back in and kept doing stuff or given into whatever their demands were. But I learned that lesson early on, and never again. So the moral is, get the money up front, then build the thing. Everyone's happy. Alright, we're at the gym. Let's go. Alright. Put the gym down. Get out of here. So where was I? Yeah, doing work for free. So funnily enough, I'm actually in another scenario where I've done some work for free. And so I'd say it's not always a bad idea, and maybe this will turn out to be a bad idea again, but there is a risk-reward ratio to factor in. Because it's like, if it takes you a week's work, but the potential outcome is that you might get like 1 million customers, then obviously do that every single time. When the risk reward is like, it might take you 3 months work and you might only make like $5,000, it's kind of like, oh, that's just not worth it. And even if it's borderline, I'd say it's probably not worth it. But at the moment, I've got an opportunity it's taken a few weeks' work and a lot of mucking about, but the reward's potentially massive from a marketing and visibility point of view. So I'll do that every time, and I'm doing it again. And it might come to nothing, but the risk reward is definitely worth it. I tell myself that. If it doesn't work out, I'll do another video about how I feel. Man, it's busy. So yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. People who promise you the world but are never going to deliver. So now when I get approached by a B2B company, and one recently approached me with a pretty big potential project, my gut reaction was, I'm not going to work on any of this until there's an upfront contract with an agreed upon price that makes it worth it. Because it's like, I could jump straight in as a software developer. That's what I love to code. It's the easy thing for me in my business situation, because I know it really well. I'm comfortable in doing it. It's a nice fallback. It's just nice, you know, it feels good. So when there's a day of code, there's no worry for me. Even the most complicated code problem, it's at least I know I can like sit there and figure it out. It's all within my control. I have the experience and the knowledge to do it. It's when there's a big marketing task in front of me and I don't have the experience. I have a lot of knowledge, but not a lot of practical experience. So that's more of an uncomfortable place for me, because I'm like, oh, well, I know in theory what I should probably do. I've never done it, and I don't know all the little details of how to do it. that's an uncomfortable day for me, but that's not to say I don't do it, because marketing is actually something I've really come to enjoy learning about. It's because it's so much the reward for winning in marketing is so interesting to me that I want to be good at that. And I think if I compare technical ability with marketing ability, that's like the ultimate knowledge, because it means I can build anything and I can sell it. Preferably in the reverse order, actually. I can sell a bunch of stuff to validate that people want it, and then I can build it. And that's probably a good other pitfall to watch out for, is the build it and they will come. It's just crap. That's straight up a lie. That might have worked once upon a time, but it doesn't work anymore. What you have to do now is validate people want it, then build it. And they still won't come, because you've got to market it at that point. And then maybe even then they don't come because you haven't marketed it right, or the thing you built isn't quite right. It's a lot harder than what it sounds like. And any of the software developers out there watching this, I'm speaking to you right now. Stop building things and fooling yourself into thinking, oh yeah, people are just going to magically find this and buy it. It is not going to happen. You're going to get 0 customers. You're going to have spent all this time building a thing. No one gives a shit about it. If you'd instead of spending a year building a thing, spend a year marketing that thing, building hype, getting people to say, oh, I would give you money right now if you had that thing. And then on top of that, take that money as a pre-order. Gives you a validation and motivation to build the product. And I have 100% fallen in these traps myself, but don't do it. I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to build some massive project and then hope I can sell it. So they're my notes to self and lessons for the day. So on that note, get after it.